Hi, Evie.
I was just curious about how your life reporting has changed so far during the COVID-19 pandemic. What's it like for you now?
Oh gosh, life reporting is a lot different. I'm not the most technologically savvy person in the world, so I've had to learn how to screen record and do interviews over the phone and over the laptop. For my personal, I guess, well, I don't know if that's really the right way to say it, but for me, that's been really difficult because even in my career, I personally like to connect with people face to face and build up, even if it's momentarily, that trust factor and that familiarity, all of that. And it just seems like, over the internet and over FaceTime, you can't do that, especially with somebody that you don't know. So it's proven to be a little bit difficult, but we're rolling with it.
How how has it been like how tell me about like the how do you find people to interview and then how do you walk them through the technology because all of a sudden they have to do it too, right?
Yeah, but luckily the vast majority of people either have an iPhone personally or they have an iPhone for work. So for a lot of people that aren't used to things like Zoom or Blue Jeans or whatever the other ones are called, I just say let's FaceTime. And then on Mac computers with the QuickTime app, I can screen record and I just go that way because it's easier for them.
So FaceTime's worked the best.
FaceTime has worked the best, yeah, for the interviews with people who aren't used to this, like, the vast majority of us aren't, but FaceTime is easier for them.
How so then how do you handle like cuts or B-roll or footage? Do you
Well,
have guidelines of that or how have you, I don't
I
know.
have not been given guidelines. So
Mhm.
what I've done, but when I kind of sensed that the lockdown was coming, I got as many in-person interviews done that I can because I figured B-roll is something I could always work on. I can go out to shoot B-roll if need be. But even with that, I've been lucky in the sense that people have been able to give me their own videos and their own photos to support the pieces that I have. I've been able to use some file photos or file video for other things. So that I do think that was going to be the biggest challenge moving forward because once my little stockpile of stories is run out, then I'm going to be trying to get some really creative ways to get video. But I think what a lot of people who maybe are in the same position can keep in mind is 9 out of 10 people know how to use their phone video. So some other people, I would plan on asking them just to take video with their phone, and I can always explain on the screen or with a lower third later that this was at-home cell video.
Do you think have you had to do any more like directing them or like do you give people shot lists or do you say like these are the kinds of things I would like to have from you or maybe like could you sit in a different place so you're not so dark? Is there like directions about light or about composition or things like that that you've had to tell people?
Yes, I've had to tell people, and I recently found out on the iPhone, if they hold it horizontally, it takes up the screen. We had that trouble, you and I. But so I will tell them to do things like that, and I always tell them this is so that you look as great as you possibly can, on phone video. So I do direct them in the sense of this is how the phone needs to be. Do you have light? If your back is to the window, turn it around if you don't have a light kit or something here. And then as far as like a shot sheet, because our average person doesn't understand what we mean when we talk that way, or even with, if I say that, tight, medium, wide, or rule of thirds, or get right center, they don't understand that. So I just try to tell them, get a variety of shots, some close-ups, some not, and get as much as you can, because then there's always going to be something to work with that way. That's what I've been doing.
That is so interesting. So do you have a story that's been like the most successful for that so far? Or has there been like I don't know, has there been someone that you were like, I don't know, how's it gone so
Yeah.
far?
It's gone okay. Even with a lot of the interviews that I've done, like with Navicent with their head of OBGYN care, you can tell that it's on a phone. You
Mhm.
know, and I think for us professionals, in the back of our mind, that's always going to bother us more than it's going to bother somebody else, because it just looks a little grainy and whatnot. And so that interview in particular was absolutely fine in terms of you can hear it and you can see it, but it just didn't look the way I wanted it to look. And so I think, like, one of the other issues is we're so used to doing things our way, now having to adapt and accept a different way. But I would think that would be the interview that maybe was not so great, because I didn't have control. I had a media person holding the camera for them, and just the framing and all of that wasn't right. And no matter how many times we tell somebody, they're naturally going to go back to what they're comfortable doing, because this isn't their normal job. So that's been a challenge.
Yeah, it's good that I think that content matters more than the package these days, which is good.
I agree. Yeah, thank goodness, because I would be in so much trouble.
Yeah. Do you have any other tips for students as they try to start thinking about going virtually or trying to do their like a fully virtually reported story?
Yes. My tips would be to talk to the person that you're going to interview beforehand. And I would even say doing that in a setting like this, that's over the virtual format. It'll get that person that you're interviewing a little bit more comfortable. It will make you as the interviewee more comfortable. If you have a few minutes, just talk through things and prepare. I think that will make a very big difference. Also, when using our creative cloud for still photos, because we are doing things that are still considered video, they're not considered still. It's good when we can to let that movement be consistent, since that's what we're looking for. So we can do that through different apps on Adobe and Final Cut, that will make the picture have a little bit of motion to it, whether it's zooming in, zooming out, or blurring out the background and letting that kind of move up and down. That makes a big difference visually. Also, to the one of the biggest tips I have is to know that we are all learning this as we go. So don't be too hard on yourself. And I mean, that's for students and professionals alike. We're going to have a period where we're going to make some mistakes, and maybe things didn't turn out perfectly, or the audio wasn't perfect. That it's okay, because we're kind of learning this as we go. And I think now more than ever, people are going to be a lot more sensitive to the fact that things aren't going to look super professional, 4K, all of that other stuff. We're all doing the best we can just to get it done. And especially for our students who are coming up on the end of the semester and who may be worried about grades and this doesn't look how it would have looked and blah, 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 blah. I would personally tell them to don't be too hard on yourself. Just try. It's going to fall into place, and you're going to make mistakes. That's how we learn.